What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Retro Encounter. I'm the host, Josh Curry. With me is fill-in host recently, Alana Hagues.
Hey, everyone.
Mike Sollosi.
Hey, everybody.
And Steph Sybydlo.
Hi! That was weird.
That is rude.
Sounded like me. Like a body double.
Without the accent, though.
An accent snuck in. I could sense it somewhere.
I could do my best Canadian accent for you all.
Amazing.
Can you do it for the whole podcast?
Hey, you bunch of hosers. Let's do this thing. Oh, I'm really into it now. What do you think about it?
On that wonderful note, we are here for specially titled, especially numbered episode 69.
Woo!
And we, Mike, during one of our late night conversations, I think we were on Google Sheets talking about this.
It was just them two, too. Nobody enticed this.
Yeah, you guys should totally come on Google Sheets and have conversations with us. It's fun.
Yeah, somehow Google spreadsheets work okay as instant messengers, although I would not have believed that if you had told me beforehand.
We've done it multiple times now. And he was like, oh, we should change how the number structure worked. And I was like, I don't really care. And then I saw that we were on like 67. I was like, yep, gotta do it so we can have a 69 episode.
Yeah. Then they were on Google spreadsheets talking about spreading the sheets, and one thing led to another.
Oh, wow. We're off to a great start. I love this. So we're kind of talking about, if you haven't figured it out yet, sex, a little bit of love. Maybe we'll talk about relationships, but how it's all covered in video games. Talk about some of our favorite games that do it well, if we can find any, and then games that just kind of miss the mark.
Ooh, that part'll be good. Most of them.
Yeah, and that was the worst part is, I was so excited to have this conversation. I was like, Mike's actually letting me do this. I'm shocked. And then I got really excited, and I, closed my laptop and was like, well, crap, what am I going to talk about? And there's almost no games actually do it well.
All the ones that do it well are all made by the same developers-ish.
Yeah.
Curious, then. I don't know. I wonder who you'd say. I got isolated examples, but, a few that do it well really stick out.
And also, a lot of the ones that I like seeing the relationships play out, I wouldn't necessarily say do it well. It's like, yeah, this is fun. I liked doing the relationship stuff in this game, but it's kind of sexist and weird still.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of them are...
That's a lot of them.
A lot of them that even do it well, it's like, it was good enough that it was only slightly cringeworthy.
Right.
Yeah.
The one that really
the
pops
high
out
bar
for me.
we got.
Yeah, is all the BioWare games.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
exactly.
when I was thinking about this, immediately I went to that, which is actually one of relationship wise is probably one of the best in my book. But then whenever you get to sex in that, you're like, oh, this is
right.
This is unfortunate.
Oh yeah.
The weird thing about BioWare relationships is that BioWare games almost always have good dialogue and at least one or two likable characters. But when you get to the romance segments, it's often stilted and weird, and the sex scenes are universally cringeworthy, I think.
Things are clipping where they shouldn't clip.
Yeah, unless
man, my dad walked in on me having video game sex.
Oh, no.
How did that go?
What was the game? I have to know. Come on, share.
It was Mass Effect, but he was just like, Steph, what the hell are you playing? I was like, I don't know.
The worst.
Turtle into my sweater. It's like, go away.
The worst is when you're on an airplane.
In what way?
Just
Josh, maybe you shouldn't have sex on an airplane. Just saying.
Oh, that's not allowed? I thought that was okay. There was a club and I wanted to join it and
oh boy.
No, anyways, never mind. But no, you're sitting there and I always so I travel a lot for work and sometimes based on a ticket I get really crap seats. And I always end up between two old people that happen to be married but won't sit next to each other. And they're too old so they can't hear each other, so they have to talk to me and I have to pass it on. infuriating.
This has
So you
happened
pull out your
multiple
Vita,
times to you?
multiple times.
Oh my
This
god.
happens a lot. I travel a lot. This happens on a decent enough basis. So I just bring headphones and I just like I used to have just like little in the ear like buds, and I realized that they couldn't figure out that I was listening to music, so I just get these big over the ear things so they understand that I can't hear them. But then you like look down at your Vita at some point and there's like, oh, this really cute little old couple, like they look so sweet together. I wish they'd sit next to each other, but they're so sweet. And I look down at my Vita and I'm like, oh, they've watched that I've been playing this whole time. This is really embarrassing.
So, has everyone here played at least 1 or 2 BioWare games?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So, does any of us have a favorite or least favorite or most difficult to watch BioWare relationship?
Aw.
I flirted with Tali in
Yes!
I liked her. She was kind of cool.
Holly is adorable.
Yeah.
I went with Miranda.
Miranda,
I
yeah.
get Miranda. I do get Miranda.
When I played
She's
Mass
such
Effect,
a pretty actress in real life, but she kind of has a bit of a fish face thing going on in the games.
She's genetically engineered to be perfect.
yeah, no, but
even
I
that
agree. Like her lips are a little weird on Miranda's face. So like Yvonne Strahovski's gorgeous, but Miranda it doesn't quite translate perfectly in the face.
It does not.
That ass though.
That was selfishly the reason I did not go for her. So yeah, women have high beauty standards. Just the point.
In Mass Effect, I jumped around a little bit. I romanced Liara, then Miranda, then Liara again in the trilogy.
Well, you always have to on the second one. Who's the lady that's in charge of the ship, or like your secretary?
Oh,
You ever watch your fish?
oh, the redheaded girl in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I forget.
Yeah, did she let your fish die?
Well, when she dies, your fish die too.
Right. Oh, right. That's it's easy to have her die if you mess up in the end game.
Kelly.
Okay.
Kelly Chambers.
That's it.
Sure.
I totally got her to feed my fish.
Is that a euphemism?
Yay!
Wow.
I am one second wittier than you. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It actually worked out. I really like Miranda. I didn't really like Tally. I'm sorry. She had a like aquarium on her head.
I think
odd.
Tali's really cute, though.
Tally is cute, but by the end of the game, I just thought Liara was the coolest character between the Shadow Broker stuff.
Yeah.
I actually agree with that.
And her personality
yeah.
going from sort of more naive to more hardened. I liked her a lot in that.
It definitely seemed like that was supposed to be canon, or like as close as they were willing to admit something was supposed to be canon.
Yeah, would you say she's
Yeah,
the
I think
easiest to romance as well?
Yeah, it's easy to accidentally trip into a Liara romance in the first game, at least, because
Accidentally trip into it, like, oh,
yeah.
all right.
Oh,
well,
I'm okay with.
Ashley and Caden are a little. They're not as cool as Liara. I mean, let's be honest.
One thing I do think is important to talk about, and Sollosi and I think I've talked about this before, is couples that are so boring that they probably only engage in missionary sex.
Oh yeah, the Tituses and Yunas of the world.
Even more, like Cecil and Rosa, as cute as they are, as sweet as they are, they probably only do it missionary style. There's just nothing really clicking there.
0% chance they've ever had partners other than each other.
Yeah. Yeah, they both lost their V card to each other, and that was that. So one of the ones we always cite with this is Tales of Phantasia's Mint and Klaus.
Oh God!
Oh yeah,
they're even worse than Cecil and Rosa.
They're so polite to each other, and that's where it ends.
They're literally like conditioned. Like you've got the knight and the nice little nurse lady, and they're both blonde. They are adorable. I love the character design in that game, but that's an entirely different conversation. But jeez, are they like they're literally just like paper cardboard cutouts of what you would expect a generic RPG couple to be, and like you know, I can't see Mint is very probably vanilla, so we'll say.
So like when the Tales of Phantasia translation came out on the SNES and they took a few liberties with the script, I think it was actually more appreciated than it was going against the honest true translation of the script.
Yeah,
Nobody
they
cared.
I mean, Arche was already supposed to be more worldly and sort of more fun than Mint, but they went and took it a few steps too far, and had her
And she does
had
stuff like a tiger.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they had her drunkenly call out to Kless when she was asleep, and they made the relationship between her and Chester a little dirtier. But I mean, whatever. Like, Kless and Mint are cuter than Chester and Arche, but Arche and Chester are sort of more fun than Kless and Mint, at least how I see it.
I like saying Urche. I usually just called her Archie, like the stupid comic.
Oh.
Sorry.
Are you more of a Betty person or a Veronica person, Steph?
You know what? That's a good question for our, kind of love triangle segment.
Ooh, all right.
Whoa.
Oh, we're just gonna jump right in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody, Tifa or Eris?
For Cloud, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And I'm assuming this is before Eris dies.
Well,
yeah,
that
no,
kind of-
after, you weirdo. No?
I don't know. I think I like the Tifa relationship more because she had sort of already liked him, and it's the canon pairing, and I guess I sometimes am a sucker that just goes for the canon pairings most of the time.
You too. Yeah, I hate to say I'm pretty boring that way.
Yeah, I also feel like having played Crisis Core and seeing Zack and Aerith together in that is just kind of like cements that together, and I'm just like, I can't see Aerith with Cloud because Aerith just is almost kind of superimposing Zack onto Cloud, and I'm just like, nah.
Well, 7 and 8 kind of had a weird thing with the X's, right?
Oh, don't talk to me about 8. Oh, the romance in 8 is
the only good romance in 8 is Zell and the girl with pigtails
and hot dogs.
and yes,
Zell and hot dogs, yeah, or Irvine and his cowboy hat.
That is the one true pairing. Irvin and his cowboy
I feel like
hat.
you kind of missed the mark when all the relationships except the central one that they really showed off in FF8 were just more interesting than Squall and Renoa.
I guess we're agreed on this mostly, but there are a lot of FF8 fans that like the Squall and Renoa relationship.
That's true.
And I think if you take spoilers for FF8 incoming. I think if you take a step back, looking at Squall and Renoa as a destined couple is kind of interesting because I mean, Squall's probable parent, Laguna, and Renoa's mother. Yeah, well, it's not said outright, but it's pretty clear that Laguna is Squall's father. Like Laguna and Rain couldn't be together when they had an almost fling during the war, but then years pass, all kinds of things happen. Rain marries that general dude, and Laguna probably gets with that lady and that was taking care of him, and then their children get together. And if you look at it that way, it's like, oh, that's kind of sweet. Their parents couldn't be together, and so their children fall in love. That's not so bad, but the relationship as it plays out is kind of terrible.
I feel it was so close to being like close cousins, though.
Yeah, that's how I was going. Yeah. It feels like incest to me. I know it's not, but it feels icky, like kind of creepy.
It does.
So it's weird to be dating someone or to be with someone when your parents are friends, because
that's completely different. Did your parents used to hook up and love each other and wish that they had ended up with each other?
This is a very awkward thing to think about, and I wish this question has not been presented to me.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the point.
Well, in real life, the point is it makes you feel uncomfortable. They should feel uncomfortable.
Well, they don't know, and it's not even said if Laguna is Squall's father or not, and it's only really clear to the player because Squall doesn't. I guess Squall does see the Laguna flashbacks, but I don't think it's that bad. Maybe because it's a video game and I'm not superimposing it onto real life. But I think that the FF8 relationship has problems in general, but I think it's cute if you look at it from a larger story perspective and not a moment to moment what happens in that relationship perspective. It's part of why it's my least favorite Final Fantasy game that's numbered between 4 and 10.
I think we can all say that the best relationship in the series is 9, maybe?
Yeah. Although it tells me anything about
all
9.
of the ones therein, maybe? Like Steiner and Beatrix are just wonderful.
Steiner and Beatrix are adorable, and I like all the different relationships that are in that game. I like Freya and Fratley as well, because of the whole even though it's kind of like, oh, I'm chasing after my lover and he doesn't know me, it's still really sad. And they still rebuild it as well. They start from the beginning. But Zidane and Garnet, dagger.
Oh, I love that you say Zidane.
I'm also going to disagree, because I think the best in the series is 15 with the bromance.
Oh, for God's
obviously.
sake. Yeah, okay.
You know what?
Right,
that actually does hit pretty good emotional depths.
Yeah, that actually, I honestly was very impressed with how well that was handled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole last fireplace scene, the last campfire scene was pretty great. You know, where he's just really having trouble coming to terms with a few of the things, but he's got his buddies by his side. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And actually hearing, I don't know if you saw that news of, the Final Fantasy 15, 3 of 4 of the main voice actors got together and streamed together, and they started singing Stand By Me.
Glorious.
It was glorious, yes.
It was pretty great. I haven't played FF15 yet, but I did watch part of that stream, and it was very sweet, the 4 voice actors doing that.
Did you get a PS4 yet?
Yeah, no, I have a PS4, and I have a copy of FF15 sitting next to my PS4, and I will play that soon, but I'm too busy with Retro Encounter games, Josh.
Oh.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn that podcast.
Right.
No.
And
How dare you have video games for work?
And shoot, I'm gonna change the subject really quick. Have any of you guys played Lunar or Lunar 2? I know.
Yeah.
No.
Steph, you have. Oh, okay.
But go on. What's there to say?
Well, in Lunar 1, I think the relationship stuff is pretty interesting. There's 6 main characters, and they basically each couple up into
They'll pair off, yeah.
Yeah, they all basically pair off, and it's 3 different kinds of relationships. You have Alex and Luna are kind of your vanilla virgins. They're childhood friends, and he's trying to rescue her, and they're both very good, and so whatever. And then you have Kyle and Jessica, who are exes, who sort of get back together as a result of playing this, engaging in this quest together, and they reconnect after they, had issues before, but before the events of the game. And then you have Nash and Mia, where Nia is very sweet, and Nash has a crush on her, and he does some very reckless things and makes some bad decisions in hopes of impressing her that don't really work out, but then he makes good on them. Whatever. It's a game. I really like Lunar 1, and the relationships in it are 3 different kinds of relationships that you don't always see in RPGs. So when I think of, RPGs with romance in them, Lunar is one that pops up. And then Lunar 2 has a very nice romance between the 2 leads, but it's different. We don't need to go into Lunar 2.
I agree. No, I like that part of it. I did remember, I found Luna the pretty overbearing childhood friend trope, so I really disregarded her a lot.
It's the least interesting of the 3.
Oh, gee. Yeah, surprisingly, despite being the main heroine status. But yeah, the other 2 were great. And the cast was a lot of fun.
I love Kyle and Jessica. They are the most fun.
What else? I was replaying, to no one's surprise, Xenoblade again. I thought the love triangle in that one was really good, just because, again, it has that overbearing, annoying childhood friend, and I think a lot of people really prefer the sort of third wheel that kind of adds to the story.
I include myself among those. I think he should have ended up with the third wheel, but...
Yes.
Yeah.
The saddest scene in that game is where she kind of, realizes it's never going to happen, and she kind of, puts herself down about it and doesn't really talk about it. But you see the hurt on her face, and it breaks your heart a bit, especially because a lot of people, I think, really would have preferred seeing that relationship.
Okay, now I want to avoid spoilers because this game isn't that old. It's what, 2011, 2012?
11.
All right, well, the game has a pretty happy ending, but I wish the ending was sadder and a certain character who may have died. Do you know where I'm coming from this?
Oh yeah.
because that would have resolved the love triangle in a way, but also it seems implausible to me that a certain character survives what happens to that character. But that's maybe
explain it.
Yeah, it's kind of a dark outlook maybe, but I sort of wish that the ending to Xenoblade had gone differently and she had died. Maybe we should just do a Xenoblade episode sometime.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's in the cards. I don't know exactly when it'll happen, but we will record about it.
Good.
That is a good love triangle, though.
I offered to do that podcast entirely on my own until everybody else joined on.
It's fine.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
All right.
So we already talked about BioWare, but the other studio I kind of thought did a really good job was the Persona team.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah.
There's not necessarily like sexual payoff in like Persona 4, but I mean, I argue more about who should have ended up with who, or like who was the best girl to be with, more than any other game, I think.
Yeah, it's unclear if sex happens in Persona 3 or 4, but because it's always the girl. It's always you go into
high schoolers.
Yeah, you go into a room together. Then the screen goes blank and it says you spent an intimate moment together with blank or whoever it is,
Right.
and then you go back to the calendar screen. So you can fill in the blanks all you want.
Oh yeah.
Final Fantasy VII did that too, where they kind of went dark on the screen when Tifa and Cloud have a final night together.
Oh right.
Yeah.
And I think the scene's a little different if you took Tifa on the gold saucer date or not.
If you got enough love points with her, then the scene plays out differently. One of them assumes that they just kind of cuddled together some garbage. The other one assumes that they most definitely probably got naked together.
Let's see. I think officially they're aged 20 and 21 or so. So yeah, I think I think there is a real missing, you could say.
For real, yeah. So that one was interesting.
But yeah, talking about the Persona team,
back to Persona.
No, it's fine. Even more so than the Persona games, I know we don't typically cover it here, but Catherine.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Did RPG Fan cover Catherine? Well, Josh, you start.
It falls in a gray area where we're allowed to talk about it, but we didn't at the time.
We didn't review it. We definitely
there's not a review. Okay.
But we're allowed to cover it.
Oh no, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. But
I'm saying like we could have a month on it if you wanted, which is cool. Push some blocks.
There was actually competitive Catherine at some fighting game tournaments. That I've seen before. That is something. And
it's not a game you'd think would be competitive too.
The crowd was into it too. But anyway, we can.
Stressful.
I actually haven't played Catherine. I've played all the Persona games at least like 75% of the way through, except for the first one because that game sucks. But Persona 2 through 4 all do have romantic angles to them that I think are pretty interesting. And I don't know if how true this is, but I
thought Catherine did the whole two timing aspect really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does do that.
They dodge a few elements of it, but I still think they did really good.
Yeah, overall, I thought they handled something that could have been really just terrible, like just been like a throwaway. They actually handled an adult theme to it. And it's not one of those things that you typically hear in a game where somebody's talking about like, oh, I'm kind of terrified of getting married and no longer being a bachelor, and that's usually like a throwaway line, and that's it. But they made a whole game about that, and kind of
the Persona games are really good at dealing with deep issues like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who is everyone's date in 3 or 4? I don't actually think I got a date in 3. I think I gave up with Minato. I was just sort of like, okay, I'll just be a miserable headphone boy.
And romance some of the men finally.
See, I think I need to get the PSP version so that I can romance Akihiko. Or you can romance Ken, which I find quite strange.
And
but
you can romance Akihiko and Ken and what's his name?
Shinjiro.
And Shinjiro. And if you do everything just right, you can change what happens to Shinjiro in the game.
You can.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the best platonic relationship will always be the main character in Koromaru.
Yeah, you can take him. You can take him for walks and take him to his master's grave, and he's a super good dog. Mm-hmm.
He's a good dog. I love him.
Did anybody else talk to that dog every single day, even though I just say woof?
Oh yeah. There's been times in 15 where I've just called Umbra just to shake his paw, and then he'll go, and I'll just carry on with the rest of my day. But this is another podcast, and
we should just do a podcast about RPG dogs or RPG cats. We can make that happen too. I'll pencil it
in. But for Persona 4, I think I always try and stray away from the main characters because it's kind of like I just want to find out about someone different. So I went for the girl in the music class because she was so sweet and adorable, and she was really awkward, and I was just like, why not? Let's help her out a little bit. She is a bit annoying and a bit squeaky, but like, she is adorable.
Get her somebody to like for the night.
Exactly.
I actually, I got a little weird the first time I played Persona 4. I had spent a lot of the part of the game dating Rise, and I got up to level 10 with her before any other girl. And then
you went for the popular girl.
I guess I did, yeah. But then I went and did the social link for the girl in the drama class, which is the alternative to the music class. They're both Sun.
Yeah.
They're both.
That's
Sun
a really
Arcana.
good storyline.
Yeah, it's a good storyline, and it's a very dramatic one. Drama class, dramatic girls, shocker. And near the end of it, she like turns her back on you and say, "If you're gonna stay with me or walk away, do whatever you want." And I was thinking, oh man, I don't want Rise to be upset, so I actually walked away from her.
Oh, savage!
Oh,
My Persona 4 main character is a cold bastard.
Actually, now that you say it, I think I actually had Yukiko on the go as well.
Uh-huh.
So I definitely had two.
I can't stand Yukiko.
I think Yukiko's a
you
little more
get the
boring.
crowd who seems to love her or hate her.
I think, well, she's the regular Japanese Nadeshiko girl, but I think Chie and Rise are more interesting than Yukiko.
Yeah.
Rise's the best. I went with Rise. I 2-timed though on her with the nurse.
You got to be careful. No, the nurse doesn't count as a relationship.
Nurse totally counts.
And you and I had this argument a year ago.
You get farther with the nurse than you do with anybody else in that game.
We had this exact argument a year ago.
You have to show up for work like twice and you get it in.
On the Persona 4 podcast. I don't think you have sex with the nurse. I think you just flirt
totally
a lot
have
with
sex
her.
with the nurse.
I don't think you do, man. There's no. I think it's more likely you have sex with one of your teammates than with the nurse, because there's no call to black spent in an intimate moment. Then you wake up the next morning.
Well, you have to go home. You're at work. You're not gonna sleep at work. There's holes in your story.
Persona 4 and 3 both. They have really interesting relationship stuff. My favorite one in 3 is Mitsuru, and in 4 is probably Rise. But but you have to be careful, because in 3, if you 2-time girls, they can turn on you. And in the Vita version of 4, if you get all the way to Valentine's Day and you're in a relationship with more than one girl, they force you to break up with at least one person.
Aww.
On Valentine's Day. It can get rough. They basically force you to make a choice.
That's life, though.
Yeah.
That's life, yeah.
Mitsuru is actually kind of difficult too, because if I remember correctly, you had to be really good at school.
Yeah, you have to have your intelligence stat maxed and finish number 1 on one of the exams.
You had to impress her with your educational acumen. That's so weird.
She was like gonna be in charge of a big company, so she needed somebody to.
That's a dramatic social link too. She's engaged to someone at a different company. And you have to, and she's a little naive, so she sometimes she wants you to explain to her how to eat ramen, and sometimes she's insulted if you're a little pedantic to her. It's not always the easy guess to what's the right thing to say to Mitsuru, but I think it's one of the better social links in the game.
Witcher 3, I do like that they punish you for trying to go after everybody, and legitimately, it is hard to pick between Yennefer and Triss.
I have not played any Witcher game for more than an hour or two, but I have heard that is good in The Witcher 3.
Yeah, the girls are pretty great company, and again, they punish you if you try to go with both of them, by leaving you with neither of them, and they sabotage you.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, so they really stick it to you for trying to flirt with both of them at the same time.
They stick it to you, eh?
They don't.
I may have to edit that out.
Do you?
If you want to talk about game series where relationships, where you can sort of relationships are part of the gameplay, I mean, you have to talk about Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Do
we?
Well,
yeah,
but it's a little less personal, because when I play a Fire Emblem game, or most of them, not every single time, I always end up playing Matchmaker a little bit.
Just have them sit in some
like...
squares next to each other for a little bit, and it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that I like, because like most of the conversations when you're trying to make them flirt is like, hey, you're quirky, so are you. Well, you're quirky with my quirk. Hey, this is crazy, but let's get married.
I wish that weren't the case, but that's fair, especially for the later Fire Emblem games where every character has 5 or 6 options.
Yeah,
they do.
Even though most Fire Emblem support conversations are pretty terrible, like Steph alluded to, sometimes they're funny or cute, and
a few of them, did actually shine,
And this is one of the Japan only Fire Emblem games. I didn't lose sleep exactly, but I had to stop playing it and think about it for a few days how I was gonna pair 2 characters off. Because it was real weird. There's my favorite character in the first half of the game is the swordswoman Ira, and she was like the best character. I knew I had to marry her off because in Fire Emblem 4, in the second half, you play as the children of characters from the first half, and children inherit the stats of their parents, and that's where the children stuff in Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates comes from. So, and I had one character that was in love with her, and one character that was trying to come on to her, and it was really, really awkward because the second of those two was her cousin. and the first one, but I know again, Fire Emblem incest stuff gets really weird in the older ones, but and the problem is, I even checked some guides. If I had her marry her cousin, her children would have been much stronger than if I had her marry the paladin that liked her. So I actually I thought about it for.
Royal?
What?
Is she royal or lord or anything?
Yeah. No, she's a warrior princess. And
oh well, that would be why then. I guess it's just the kind of, if you were like marry into familial ties, then you're a better family, I guess.
Yeah, and in Fire Emblem 4, which is Genealogy of the Holy War, is how it's translated. If you have characters with royal blood, then there's extra stat bonuses for their children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And Ira has twins in FE4, so if and I think the way it worked out was if I had her marry the paladin, her children would have higher HP, and her daughter would be awesome, but the son would be a lot weaker. And if I had her marry her cousin, then the daughter would still be strong, but the son would inherit his dad's awesome rare sword and have way better offensive stats. So I stopped playing the game and spent a couple days thinking about it before I had her go and marry the paladin. Is that what it ended up doing? Lex was his name. So yeah, the Fire Emblem relationship stuff gets really weird, and I actually had to stop playing a game once to think about it, to think about how to handle one of them. But that's the most extreme I've ever gotten with video game shipping, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, I usually tend to go for the canon couples. The only time I never did was for Tales of Legendia's main couple, sort of.
Oh, Shirley and Senel are terrible.
Yeah, because exactly.
It's not even that they're a terrible couple. It's that Shirley is one of the worst human beings on the planet, of any planet.
Having not played Legendia, but seeing Shirley and hearing everything, and Chloe is... I'm assuming you're Chloe,
there was actually, so there was actually a scene where, basically Senel kind of turns down Shirley, and I was, whooping. I was like, yes!
Yeah.
Stick it to her, and then she gets evil, and it seemed appropriate. Cause I didn't like her. Nobody liked her.
Legendia is weird. It's not one of the better Tales games, and there's sort of 2 stories, because the Shirley Senel story ends right at the game's midpoint, and then after that there's a sort of a story with different stakes where you have to do sort of a character quest for every character other than Senel and Shirley.
Yeah.
Which And it doesn't really resolve clearly who Senel ends up with, but Shirley and Chloe both have crushes on him, I think. And Chloe is actually alright, while Shirley is terrible.
I think that was another case where, the fan favorite was, considered more canon by everybody, who cares about the series.
Mm-hmm. Almost, I mean, we talked about Tales of Fantasia earlier, but almost every Tales game has some romance in it.
Yeah, that's always the main, and, Eternia or Destiny 2 is Reed and Farah, kind of. And then you've also got Keel and Meredy, who are quite sweet, because it's Meredy learning English and Keel is just getting really annoyed at her
and
for the entirety of the game.
And Keel is slightly racist against Celestians, and he sort of pushes away at her when he finds out she's Celestian. but then they sort of get closer. It's a cute one.
I really like that. And Symphonia, you get a semi-choice, I guess, between Colette and Sheena.
No, but they kind of really stick it to, or they really want you to keep with Colette.
I like her.
It's really, I guess we mentioned this before with Mass Effect, but it's easy to accidentally trip into Colette unless you deliberately are trying to get that scene with someone else.
Yeah, I think if we're talking canon couples and Tales series, I guess Tyr and Luke are the best. Or
for the most amount of progress in their relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Although a lot of people like Yuri and Estelle, but I think they're more platonic again.
I like them a lot, though. Even, at the very least, they bond, I think, least forcefully.
Yes, I would say that.
And that's what I like the most about it. So even if there's no actual canon coupling between them, I just think they're the least forced couple, and it works much more better for it.
Yeah, I think so. I think Judy suits Yuri a bit more, though, for her kind of wildish personality.
I found them more like work flirty.
Maybe. Yeah.
Judy and Yuri are work flirty. Estelle and Yuri are maybe more like a real relationship. That's cool. I like that.
All right. One of the ones I always like actually was Valkyrie Profile. It's pretty ham-fisted, but I do like that it's one of those cases where like love did not make the woman weaker.
Right.
Yeah, where I thought she was, still pretty strong and quite the, still a pretty powerful leading lady despite, whatever her feelings are for that really lame knight.
Yeah, I haven't played Valkyrie Profile, but I do appreciate when a female character is not defined by the relationship or doesn't seem to need a relationship. That's a very important point.
Well, and that's kind of one of those things that why a lot of, I guess, sex doesn't work is they make such a big deal of calling it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a couple of the ones that we've mentioned that have done a good job, it is kind of like a fade to black or it's an implied thing, and you're still kind of getting the gratification. Okay, my relationship hit the point that it was supposed to. It went full circle, but
I also think that since like clipping technology in games is just not there, seeing like two characters embrace is just really awkward.
Just slide remotely close to each other, but not actually.
God.
Yeah, because they don't really feel each other. They just kind of glide against each other, whether they hit or not.
Sometimes you need a little glide to it. I don't know.
The worst version of that is maybe Dragon Age Origins, which is a game I like a lot. But all of the sex scenes in that game are identical, no matter which character you are, and what race you pick for your main character. So they're always sort of like awkwardly standing in front or behind each other, or they don't quite fit when they're over top one another. They're so bad in that game. And the characters in Dragon Age Origins I like a lot. Like I think Alistair, Morrigan, and Leliana are all good characters, but man, the graphics of the sex in that game are just terrible.
Morrigan's my favorite BioWare character.
She's real cool, and Claudia Black does an amazing job with the voice performance too.
I've been very disappointed not to see more of her because she was hands down my favorite part of that game.
She is. She's not in Dragon Age 2 at all, but she does feature pretty prominently in Inquisition.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't make it very far in that, so.
She's right at the midpoint is when you see a lot of Morrigan, I think, if memory serves.
Just to sort of sidestep awkwardly, one game I thought was actually pretty cool for this, not exactly very good, but it had a lot of interesting mechanics, was Star Ocean 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so they actually devoted quite a large chunk to like how you, develop for feelings or friendships with other characters, and there's a ton of characters too. There's like 10 different party members, I think, 10 or 12.
I think it's 12. I think it's 12,
yeah.
but the maximum you can have in one run is 8.
It's
so,
8, yeah.
Depends on who you play as, isn't it? As
correct.
well.
And
so,
so it depends who you start the game as. Either Claude Arena, you could only get certain characters part of that party. Then if you got one character, you'd lock another one out. So like, there's a whole bunch of mechanics to it.
Yeah. Bowman versus Precies, I know, is one of those lockout things.
Yeah. So you could actually get an ending with just about everyone, and some of them actually had multiple endings depending on the level of romance you actually did have with them, which was pretty cool. But it also came to things like the Star Ocean series are really popular for their private actions, which are tons of fun usually. So they let you muck around and make kind of cool decisions that let you boost affection and all that, whatever. But also too, in battle, if you healed characters or if a character that you like died, then you'd actually like get enraged and get a stats up boost.
Oh,
Yeah, so
they lost that in the later ones. That's really sad.
Yeah, they did. But again, they put a lot of thought into it. Even if it wasn't always, and like back then localization was kind of iffy. So even if the localization was kind of wooden about how they did it, it was still pretty cool that they had a lot of options for players to kind of engage with, to, talk with other players.
Not enough games do that, where if you have like your romance character die or you like stop them from dying, it affects their stats.
Yeah.
They don't do it. There is the only like ways I can think that it's done it otherwise is if you have like a perverted character in a game, they always have like a stat boost if they're with all women, which is like so like the first thing that comes to mind is Zelos from Tales of Symphonia, and he gets a title for being with all the women, and it's like that's the only
he
way
also
to do
gets
it,
one for flirting with everybody. Yeah, he also has an option to
I-
flirt with everybody. Every single female NPC he could flirt and get items with. It's amazing.
I love that. But yeah, no, that's really sad that they dropped that, because 2's the only game I haven't played in the series. So
I think it's the only one that I've finished. Well, no, I've beaten 1 and 2, but
it's probably the only one really that you can unanimously recommend. I think
2 is excellent. I thought it was
It's
it's a very, very good RPG of that era. And I don't know, my favorite romance thing in 2 might be Opera and Ernest.
Yeah,
Oh,
because they're
yes.
already a couple.
Yeah, but they're I don't know. I think they're a cool couple, and they're
Quirky.
some weird Three Eyes adventurers.
Oh, I love them.
Star Ocean 2 is real good.
So it's kind of off topic. I struggled finding games that I actually enjoyed relationships in.
Yeah, there
And
were
so-
a few.
I went like a different direction with it. And I kind of prefaced this by mentioning Final Fantasy 15 earlier. So I started thinking about groups that I just liked, and Danganronpa kind of came up, which we covered recently.
Yes.
And there's not necessarily romance, but there is definitely friendship, and you go through relationships with that. And I know we're kind of talking about sex and whatnot, but that I think the level of like understanding that I had with people from that was much deeper than I have in most games, and I made up like to the point that I like started making up. Oh, this person's doing this, or this person's this, or we're dating because we're always together. But
When you give them gifts. Oh,
yeah, and then you start giving gifts, and I don't know. I just that kind of felt kind of sort of in the same realm of this conversation.
Yeah,
It does.
Also brings up one thing that I don't love about video game relationships. They treat women like vending machines.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you just throw gifts or items at them until boom, a relationship pops out or sex pops out or what have you. But it's a bit of a crude comparison, but I mean sometimes relationship systems building up affection points or whatever feels a little it makes it feel a little less natural when that's the main mechanic for making a connection with someone.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You could just, especially games where you can actually give items to players. It's like, here's like 99 flowers. Do you like me yet? No. Oh.
Yeah, Persona does that, Dragon Age does that, Danganronpa does that, and I mentioned this in the Danganronpa podcasts, and I'm not sure how far you are in Danganronpa 2, Josh or Alana, but
20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I really don't like the game.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, we'll see if you continue to feel that way. But in Danganronpa 2, there are...
That's a really nice exchange right there. That's a shame.
There's two characters in Danganronpa 2, I won't say which two, that but the main character is not one of the two. You sort of see them getting closer to each other, and maybe you're thinking, oh, maybe there's a relationship here. They're super cute. And then one of them dies. And
I know who you're talking about, and it's making me sad.
Yeah, it's so sad, but that's what Danganronpa does really well. You see character relationships form a little bit, and then half of the pair dies. It happens.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking about when I thought about this. Is I almost never care if anybody dies, and playing through the first Danganronpa, like I actually was like, oh, that's kind of sad, and that kind of resonated with me because that never happens in games for me, or very rarely ever does. And so for it to actually have like kind of that resonance of me caring about people, and even like I cared about people I didn't like.
Uh-huh.
And so that I do think that is like I'd be interested in them to go the direction of trying to have some sort of relationships.
Once you get to the end of the second chapter of Danganronpa 2, you see those relationships forming and the the sadness of having it taken away more. Danganronpa 2 is a bit of a slow starter, but I ultimately like it more than Danganronpa 1, but I won't go into reasons why, because then I'd have to discuss the situations of the last couple chapters.
Oh, see, now you've reminded me there's actually 2 instances of couples forming.
That's all they do.
Maybe more than 2, depending on how hard you're searching for those relationships. But I think one or 2 definitely, more than 2 maybe. But I don't want to. I'm being deliberately vague, and I know that's unfair.
No, it's good. Don't spoil anything past chapter 4.
Oh, so that's okay. So you finished chapter 4, and Josh hates everything and hasn't finished the first chapter.
I really don't like it. I'm not sure. So one of the things I was thinking about, and this kind of goes part of this conversation, is I enjoyed the characters so much in Danganronpa, and I had gotten so far to the point that we really knew them and understood them, and the story was like kind of fully sprinting away and doing all these creative things. And to start from scratch, I'm not sure if that's what's kind of throwing me off. It's so easy to compare it to the first game because they did such a great job with all the different relationships and everything about all the people.
I get it, but I still think you should probably play it a little, give it more of a chance.
Well, if I'm going to be on a podcast for it, I have to play more than 20 minutes.
Agreed.
Really No, that's the key to success in college. You take that 20 pages that you read and stretch it out into a full paper.
You guys would never guess that I didn't play the game. So kind of the other off-kilter idea I had of relationships was one game which we cover, one which we don't, was The Last of Us, and then the first season of The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
Last of Us I love to cover just because it does different relationships.
Right, and there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff that The Last of Us does with a lot of different relationships, but they actually handle kind of a couple at the beginning of the story when they die, like separation and whatnot. That was handled very interestingly, and kind of it actually propels the whole quest. Otherwise, that probably wouldn't have happened if they didn't have that relationship. But it was more like the father-son, or I guess father-daughter in both cases, and kind of the bond that grows in that regard over both stories. And I found that really interesting because I think when you take the element of kind of, like we've said a couple times, like take the element of trying to have that really crappy visual payoff of having sex out of it, you're able to focus much more on the relationship and who the people are and what their like kind of motivations are. And like I genuinely cared about Clementine in The Walking Dead. Like it terrified me that something bad would happen to her.
It's a very good paternal/platonic relationship that you have with her.
Right.
The sort of like show don't tell elements of even Bill in The Last of Us was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yeah. And you ask most people and they didn't even fully catch on.
Yeah, you definitely have to go search for the evidence on that one, and I like that. Is to all of our listeners, they highly what do you say? Insinuate that Bill was probably a gay guy.
They basically go out and say it. But yeah, you have to go find the sticky evidence yourself.
Yeah.
Gross. And also, I mean, the first season of The Walking Dead they show a pretty cool example of a marriage getting strained or ruined a little bit. With because based on the choices, no, not even based on the choices.
Though, so it's fine.
Yeah, because you have this middle-aged couple with a young son, and I don't remember all their names, and I feel bad for doing so. And the son gets infected by the zombie virus, and the parents struggle deeply on what to do about it, and the main character can guide them a little bit with the discussions that they have, and. I think in all or most of the situations, the mother ends up shooting the son and then shooting herself, and then the father sort of comes out of that a little broken and may or may not die, but depending on how you talk to him.
Kenny's the worst, though.
Yeah,
he really is.
Kenny is the dad, and he's difficult to like.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I killed him. I feel like I killed Doc.
Well, he is one of the 4 or 5 characters that can be with you at the last sequence, but everyone besides Clementine dies anyway. So yeah, spoiler. Oh no, wait, no. The young couple survives.
Kenny survives too.
No. Kenny gets dragged by zombies that are reaching through a roof while you're running across the rooftops.
He's in later seasons.
He is?
Yeah, he's in episode 2.
Weird.
Season 2 even.
Okay, I've only played the first episode. I mean, I'm sorry, the first season.
Ah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Still don't like him.
I'll have to play season 2.
Still hated him though. And that was again like a lot of games have kind of the relationship elements of so and so will remember this, or so and so will like you, or this or that.
The Batmobile will remember this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And oftentimes it's so black and white. And just sticking with The Walking Dead, they did such a good job of there's just all of the choices were just pure shit that like you didn't really have a good choice, and so you actually had to pick something that you thought was the best. Whereas if you look at like Mass Effect, you're like, well, I'm gonna do the Paragon option because that's what I always do. And
then, I mean, a lot of games that have these multiple story paths, it's not hard to follow a guide to get the most desirable outcome. Because, I mean, some gamers will always want a positive outcome or for it to go a certain way. But with Walking Dead, it's less than a zero-sum game. There's going to be bad things that happen to characters, whether you say all the right things or not, which can be frustrating or appealing, depending on your tastes, I guess. I'm still a little mad that the reporter girl in this first season of The Walking Dead, even if you save her in the first chapter, she dies really unceremoniously in the second or third chapter.
Yeah, they played it up like that was going to be something.
It's like, I was like, oh, she can be like, she's like the female lead of the game. She seems really cool. Oh, she gets murdered even if you save her. Thanks.
All the more reason, I think it was pretty bold for them to kill off Eris. And, just get rid of her.
Yeah, I mean, like, a meaningful death of a character that has a romantic attachment can really, really hit home. I mean, we talked about it with Danganronpa. Eris definitely is another one of those. I still call her Eris. I know it's supposed to be Aerith, but I mean, I have played FF7 far more hours than I've played any other game with Eris in it. So she's still Eris to me, even though I know that's wrong.
Yeah,
her dying is like universally considered like the moment that everybody cried while playing a video game.
I didn't cry the first time, but the second time I played it, I did.
I didn't cry because of the weird graphics, I'll be honest.
Oh.
Like, being cuddled by somebody with like a, giant fist, I guess.
Yeah, and they all have those weird Popeye forearms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really took the romance out of it for me.
I think I might have mentioned this on another episode, but the first time I remember crying at a video game was a different romantic thing. Maxim and Ceylon or Serena, I think is what her name is supposed to be, in Lufia 2.
Oh yeah.
Has anyone here played Lufia 2?
Do tell for the rest of us
okay,
then.
Okay, sure. Basically, throughout the game, it's a very sweet relationship. There's another woman in your party who's in love with Maxim, but he's not into her. But Maxim and Ceylon or Serena immediately hit it off and get married around the midpoint of the game, and are sort of a husband and wife couple fighting evil in the second half of the game. It's really likable.
There's something you really don't see often either, eh? Husband and wife.
Yeah, they're husband and wife just kicking ass together. It's great. And Ceylon has a child shortly after they get married. Again, real missing. And in the very end of the game, they're fighting these beings called the Sinistrals in a flying castle. And all of your allies get to escape the castle, but Maxim and Ceylon stay on to destroy it so it doesn't land on the planet and kill everyone in their hometown. So
no.
so they die together on the castle, and then during the credits, it goes to like every major character in the game, and they're all saying, "Oh, I can't wait for Maxim and Ceylon to get back," and it's like, "Oh, I'm sure they'll make it out of it all right." And Maxim and Ceylon, you can always count on them. And you just see them like their ghosts like just flying towards the heavens, and then the final scene of the game is their baby spontaneously crying. And it was super sad, and it's a great relationship that just ends so tragically.
It's the lead character in the first game, though, right?
The lead character in the first game is supposed to be Maxim's grandson. Because I believe their baby's name is Jaros, and I think Jaros is the father or grandfather of the main character of Lufia 1, because you get to name him.
Yeah.
And you see Maxim and Ceylon. It's not really a spoiler, because in the beginning of Lufia 1, you see Maxim, Ceylon, Artea, and Guy defeating the last couple Sinistrals, and you see the ending to Lufia 2 at the beginning of Lufia 1. Which is why I'm okay spoiling a 20-year-old game. But
you really gotta go out of your way to play it now.
Yeah, it's hard to play now. There is a DS remake of Lufia 2, but it's bad.
Yeah,
it's called Curse of the Sinistrals. But it's a really, really good Super Nintendo RPG with one of my favorite relationships in games, even though it's super, super sad, and I cried at the end the first time I played it.
So, I guess this is kind of a complete tangent. How often do people cry during video games?
Not often.
It has happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times ever, maybe.
Okay.
I've never cried while playing a game.
I probably cry at least twice a game.
Seriously?
Well, all
really?
right.
I think 3 times is my max that I've hit.
I mean, the most recent game I probably cried at was Xenogears last year. Because I fell for Faye and Ellie, and actually when you were talking about Destiny couples with Renoa and Thrall, then Faye and Ellie are the kind of destined couple 10,000 years, every 1,000 years. Oh, look, 2 variations, and it might be his mother-ish. But they made me bawl my eyes out multiple
and also,
times.
there's a clear morning after sex scene in that game, which is
yeah,
which is uncommon and appreciated.
And hot. I mean, the other one that I've definitely cried at in the last couple of days is, and every time I play it, is
I know where this is going.
Shadowheart's Covenant.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, but yeah, it kills me every time, and I'm too emotionally invested in things. If I really like a game, then I will probably cry at it at some point, even if I'm happy. Oh no, actually, C15 was the last game that I actually cried at, and that was like a straight 15-minute cry, so it's fine.
I want to get to FF15 soon. But I have to finish these Retro Encounter games first. But I will be playing that game in the next few weeks or months.
Yeah, but in terms of relationships, I think Yuri and Alice, and then Faye and Ellie. I was going to combine the 2 couples together then, because they're like my 2 favorites. But I've spoken at length about Faye and Ellie last year, and everyone probably got sick of me. And I will probably do the same in a couple of weeks with the others. So
I gotta play that game. I gotta beat it.
I even cried at Tidus and Yuna.
I did, but I was like 10 when that game was out, and I was like, it's so sad and beautiful. I definitely cried at the FF10 ending, though. Not at the relationship ending.
Yeah, I think so. I think me and my other half played it on, last year, and I cried at the end, and he was just like, why are you crying? It's like, do you not get it? And he was like, okay.
Then you gotta forget that Tensu ever existed, and it's like, no. It's this beautiful, beautiful, tragic thing.
Yeah.
I didn't cry at FF10, but I think the way they have the relationship come to a tragic end is cool. Maybe I just like seeing romances end sadly. Is that weird?
You're so morose.
Yeah, I really am.
End sadly, or end they. Yeah.
But the scene in I think it's in Macalania Woods or Macalania Lake, where they either make out or have sex. But it's
on some metaphoric level of them swimming around in the water like that.
Right.
Yeah.
or they just swim intimately together. Maybe that's what happens. But but that's I think that's a good payoff kind of scene. It's really sweet. But no, FF10 didn't make me cry like Lufia 2 did.
I think Lufia would pull me over the edge.
It's sad too because Lufia's been around a while, and there's I think 4 games in the series, but only the second one is the good one, which is a little too bad.
You know what? It's been 30 years, and I'm still waiting for like some incarnation of Link and Zelda to kind of start macking each other.
Zelda is always like
top.
she's always sort of a I don't know what would you call. She's almost always like a goal or
she's like really into Link, but she
Yeah.
will not even touch his skin. You know, just like, oh my god, it's you, and that's it.
the most intimate a Zelda game has ever gotten is maybe Link and Marin in Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a sweet one because okay.
Yeah, so I think there was like a collective semi hard on when like in the Breath of the Wild trailer where you see like Zelda crying in Link's lap or something like that. It's like that's like
whoa,
the closest
physical
they've ever...
physical contact.
In the worst context, I mean, she's crying, so read into it what you will.
Well, I don't want to prejudge that game, but it would be cool if we had Zelda as if not necessarily a romantic lead, but just, a little bit more interesting and active than she normally is in Zelda games.
Yeah.
You can't prejudge it because you know how judgy I am already about that game.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
Josh is perhaps the most anti-Switch person I've encountered yet.
That doesn't surprise me.
That. Yeah. We need somebody to be that.
For the record, I am very sad that I am con the Switch.
Because you like the Wii U, don't you? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Wii U is like the most successful piece of hardware ever invented.
We also agree on one of the most awkward couples ever is
please.
Sarah and Snow.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
I've not played any of the FF13 games.
I hate it so much. I used to like it.
Oh, yeah, that was bad.
I used to like it, and then I remember how much I disliked Snow and Sarah as characters, and rewatched it and went, no.
I liked Snow. Really didn't like Sarah.
No.
Sarah is just kind of like that giddy Disney sister character, I guess. And Snow is just a little overbearing. He does that hero nonsense, but whatever. Just seeing them two beside each other, where she's like 5'0" and he's like 6'8", and like when they're kind of sharing an intimate moment, it just looks like some sort of weird.
She weighs like 70 pounds.
Oh yeah, I don't see that.
So one of the things I never liked about Snow, and Mike, you'll enjoy this. I always felt like he had just left playing Blitzball.
I am already into this. All right.
And so, like, that was always one of those things like, oh, I don't like you. This is what professional Blitzball players probably play on wear on their off time.
True.
Oh,
Very
man.
true.
Yeah, so that relationship is no good. Edge and Rydia were wonderful, if not creepy on his part.
It's okay. I sort of like that relationship, but I can't get over part of the creepiness of it. Because
she was like a child like a year ago.
Yeah, because I think she was. I may have the numbers wrong, but she was 8 years old for most of FF4, or for like the first half, and then she gets thrown into the realm of monsters where people age quickly. So when she comes back, she's 18 instead of 8. And Edge, who did not know young Rydia, he doesn't join until late in the game, immediately falls in love with her. And Edge is yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's an asshole, but he's into that. And he awkwardly won't talk to her at Cecil and Rose's wedding at the end of the game.
What did everybody think of Chrono Trigger?
Don't care.
The romance in that game is very platonic. It's like there might be something between Marl and Chrono, and
it definitely is canonically, I guess.
Yeah, they get married.
Oh, they
do, don't they? In one of the endings.
In some of the endings,
I found the relationship between Luca and the robot more interesting.
Yeah.
I like Frog the best.
Yeah.
I need to refresh my memory on. Yeah.
Justin and Fina is a popular one, right?
Oh, and Grandia 1. Yeah, that's definitely canon. But it is. But I mean, Fina's cool, so I'm all right with it.
Yeah, I like Fina, but I don't know whether I like the relationship. Maybe just because I don't know. There's something about it that I just don't like. I much prefer
Like
Grandia.
Monty Strong, I guess.
I guess so. It's literally just like Justin kind of idolizes her a little bit, and Fina is cool, but she kind of falls into the tropey kind of, oh, whoops, I've been kidnapped again. Even though you're really cool, like, why have you done this?
And also for most of the game, Justin is much more interested in adventuring than he is in Fina.
Yeah, exactly. Which
and it's like, we're gonna get married at the end.
And like,
because why not?
Speaking, that 12 always threw me off with that, with Penelo and Ash. I always thought he was.
Were they already a couple, Penelo and Vaughn?
I thought they were just childhood friends.
Yeah, I think they were just cool.
Yeah.
And then the whole
Japanese
game,
RPGs
I thought
and their childhood friends.
The whole game, I thought he was supposed to end up with Ash. Like that seemed like how everything was supposed to work out. And then
I always thought Ash and Bosch were closer than Vaughn and Ash.
I don't know if they were allowed to do anything because he kind of like protected her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't love the characters in FF12, but
I love that game.
It's I think it's a good game, but I think it's uneven. But we don't need to go into that.
Chrono Cross, then.
Oh,
haven't played it.
Let's not talk about that.
I hate Kid. I think she's annoying, like the bad version of an annoying tomboy.
So do you like Serge and Lena together, or like Glenn, maybe Glenn and Riddle?
No, that's the thing. I have trouble sympathizing with the silent protagonist because I don't really feel like I'm them. So like it just kind of feels like someone's flirting with you, and you're just kind of like, oh, all right.
And well, that game goes in so many directions because there's more than 40 characters, and I think your final party can't be higher than like 25 or so because it's.
The best characters come when you ignore Kid's plea for help.
I know that I know that Glenn and Lena are two of them that you get if you ignore Kid, and Glenn's like my favorite, and Lena's my top.
She's a really good blue in it.
Yeah, she's a very good blue that can restore her elements, which is amazing, and only a couple characters can do that. But I never really got attached to any vaguely romantic things in Chrono Cross or Trigger. It's there's a lot of appealing characters in both of those games, but I mean the best romance in Chrono Trigger is probably Isla and Kino.
I liked Rachel and Locke. Like I thought that told a pretty cool story.
Yeah,
Rachel, Locke, and Celeste. That's a great.
That's probably one of the cases
romance.
of me crying about a video game situation when I was a kid.
Yeah, see, like Final Fantasy VI does relationships really well because you've got Setzer and Daryl. And then you've got Locke and Rachel.
And then you have
in a nice way, actually.
And then you have Edgar asking Realm how old she is.
Oh yes, but no, it does them really well. And I wasn't as keen on the love triangle. I don't like the kind of Locke, Celeste, Rachel thing. I think Locke and Rachel are kind of doing the Yuri Alice thing. Like they just are. Like Locke can't do anything with Celeste But I still really the scene at the beginning of the World of Ruin with Celeste just kills me every time. I can't do it. I can't.
In a prison.
I can't listen. Yeah.
I think the arc of that relationship actually is all right because I mean Locke feels like he always has to protect women because of Rachel. Then Locke and Celeste clash at first. Then she sort of falls in love with him. Then he thinks Celeste betrayed him when she didn't.
I feel like we're about to hit that territory where it's like, you know, when girls ask, like, why do the girls always have to be rescued? It's like, well, you should be happy that, that you know, like, guys just like them enough that they're worth putting their necks on the line for.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been around the circle for a lot of those, like, you know, girls in games topics, and it gets really weird. So that one's pretty good. Shoot.
I like the end of Grandia too, where it's like you spend the whole game between Elena and Millennia, and then at the end it's just like, well, I'm having neither of them, so you know.
I became a circus performer.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the dynamic between the three of them actually, and I like how different. I like couples that are. Yeah, I like how opposite couples like work and polar opposites like clash with each other. But I really like the way that Rita is just kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna carry on as I am. So it's kind of maybe that's how I wanted because I played Grandia after Grandia 2, so maybe that's how I wanted Justin to be because I like adventure games where you're like, I'm in love with adventuring, and then of course, unless you're a sky pirate like Vice, who just gets all the women and all the money, and it's like,
he literally sails into the sun. Vice literally sails into the sunset with his two pirate girlfriends on either arm.
Yeah, no, we gotta ask. So who is it? Aika or Fina?
Oh man,
neither. I don't do either of them. I just can't do it. No, Vice is in love with pirating. He is. He doesn't.
Ash is in love with Pokemon.
Ash is 10. I don't want Ash to be in love with anybody.
Okay, Vice is definitely not 10, so I'm pretty sure he's. I don't accept the answer of neither. Let's just say.
Okay, then Aika.
How the end of the game plays that up. It's like, Aika kisses Vice, but Vice kind of embraces Fina in a less romantic gesture.
Yeah.
I like Vice and Aika together, but you could go either way with that.
Yeah.
It's they're just a fun trio in general.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe my issue, that I just want them all to be together.
Well, you commit.
And but the real romance in that game is the what's the name of the woman who's in love with Gilder?
Clara.
Yeah, Gilder and Clara. That's the true romance of Skies of Arcadia.
She's so annoying, but I love Gilder.
I love Gilder's this super cool rogue traveling the world, while there's this crazy woman who's cutting him off at every turn.
Yeah.
That game is fun. I should replay that thing. Put
You should.
Skies of Arcadia out on PC, Sega.
Oh, man.
Please do it.
Please.
So everybody knows I hate this game, but I'm gonna throw out Joshua and Estelle.
Oh, okay. Trails in the Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I've never played it, but I
Do
do
they ever
know.
end up together?
Yes.
Yes. At the end of Trails in the Sky second chapter,
Very much.
They are definitely a couple, and they are adorable.
Yeah.
Estelle is much less annoying in Trails in the Sky second chapter because she basically decides to toughen up and track down Joshua and tell him how she feels, and when she does, she is much more.
It's quite the event.
Yeah, she's much more mature and cool than she is in Trails in the Sky 1, and I think the second game is significantly better than the first one, and I like the first one a lot. They are a good RPG couple.
I like them, yeah. I know it's weird because they do often introduce each other as adopted brother and sisters.
Yeah, oh god, that's true. But
kind of Royal Tenenbaum style. But
oh wow,
but
terrific
since they met
Wes Anderson reference.
Yeah, but they kind of met late, so it's like they're already 10. Like they don't have a childhood together, really.
I hated that first game. Absolutely hated. But I liked the two of them together. Like, I liked how they played off
They had
each
good
other.
banter, yeah. They really bantered really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice that it took the whole 2 games for them to actually get together as well.
So
rather
they really
than...
teased it out for a while.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
nice.
it's not until maybe the 2/3 or 3/4 mark of the second game when it really happens.
That's really good. I like that. Having not played them, that's a really nice thing for them to do, and I do hate it when they're just kind of like, halfway through, kiss.
There's too much trails, though, to have to play to get to it.
Ooh,
I would encourage you to try them, Alana. I like them a lot.
Yeah,
they're on my list. They're on my hit list.
Right on.
One interesting example. I don't know how much I love them as a couple, but I just kind of like the Shakespearean aspect of it. Is Gwendolyn and Oswald in Shakespeare?
Yeah.
They'll talk about the stars in the sky passing by and like how their love is unending till.
It's Odinsphere's good, and I don't think that relationship is bad, but it's a little Stockholm syndrome-y.
Yeah,
Since she's literally a prisoner in his castle, and they sort of fall in love together. It's like, it's less natural than, say, Beauty and the Beast.
I think they bring that up though as an issue, is like whether the feelings were her own or whether they were for him, and then they kind of cop out, and it's like, well, I don't care. It's kind of working out. We kind of work out anyway, so let's do it.
I never finished that game. I got pretty far, but I never finished it.
I like it. It's a fun hack and slash. Speaking of which, Sora is the worst.
Oh, well, okay.
I'm just gonna leave that one at that.
Okay, if we're gonna talk about Kingdom Hearts, maybe I should just mute my mic for about.
I like
10
Sora.
minutes.
Oh.
He's like a puppy. He's so happy about everything, and
He has a Keyblade.
Yeah, that's cute. Whatever's going on between him and Kairi, I don't care. It's one of those cases where like I'd rather see him and Riku hanging out for a night.
Hey.
Oh,
wait, Soru and Riku?
Whatever I said. Also another one of those cases was Tales of Graces, where it's like Asbel and Richard were way more convincing as a couple than the actual canon boy-girl couple.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think I like Sophie and Richard as a couple, actually. Like, the kind of cutesy... I've not played Graces for a while, but they're cute. And there's something about the way that she probes him in the F arc. And it's just...
Sherry's like, annoying, man. She's like, why don't you like me yet? It's basically that the entire duration you talk to her. It's crazy annoying.
I mean, on a very similar note, in probably like 3/4 of the East games, I find... yeah, you know where this is going. I find Adol and Dogi's bromance much more convincing than any of the women that Adol meets on any of his adventures.
Yes, totally.
Absolutely.
It's quite sad that it ends up like that, though, because it's like, we were talking about, like, what we were saying earlier, like, you're either going to write a really bad female-male relationship, or you're going to have to, so you have to find it somewhere else, and you find it in this kind of bromance. So, it's like, it's just frustrating. I can't even word it properly, but you know what I mean? Like, they're not capable of writing a good enough normal relationship rather than a kind of Sherry at Asbel, like, you must be with me. No.
That's the, like, really bad case of the, like, destined couple where it's like they kind of pair them off together just because main guy, main girl. Ugh. And like all of her items too. It's like, this ribbon will make him notice you, right?
Yes,
it's just so neurotic and gross.
She sounds like a delight. I haven't played very much of Grace's, but oh boy.
And the way that they force Pascal and Hubert together in the F arc really annoys me as well.
Yeah, like, seeing them work together, but there's nothing that really brings them together in a convincing way. I guess they're both kind of smart. That's it.
Leia and Exilia is a little bit like it for a bit with Jude, where she's kind of like, oh, you must notice me, I do so many good things, I might not be a god, but at least I can do this. And then it's just, I love Leia a lot more as a character, because she suddenly realizes that she just wants to be, like, helpful, and she stops pining after Jude. But yeah,
they kind of put her and Alvin together in the second game. I don't know,
they did, even after
really?
Spoilers, he shot her.
Weird.
But yeah, I like
shot her.
Oh
wow. I love Alvin very much, a lot. So, yeah.
Oh,
he actually probably would have been the better lead of that game than Jude in some ways. More interesting, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because he comes from a way different place.
He does. But Tales games don't always do relationships very well. I mean...
They do friendships very well.
They do friendship very well, which is good.
Yeah, Zesteria, Saray, and Mikleo were the greatest thing in that thing. They were totally gay for each other.
Man,
very much so.
We should probably just do a Tales podcast one of these days. Because we've spent a lot of time on this one talking about Tales characters, and justifiably so.
There's a ton of
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Tailsed out. I'm not Tailsed out at the moment, sorry. I am over Tailsed at the moment, because this area is great.
Yeah.
Seriously great.
Do they have any relationship stuff in that one? That one has a good bromance going on.
It doesn't really, no. I mean, there's a creepy... This is probably going to get edited out. There's a creepy, like, brother-sister relationship with the Abby. I don't know how far you are, Steph, but, like, Oscar
yeah, two of them are total perverts for each other,
she's so creepy. But, yeah, no, there's no really love relationship in that game at all, and I really like that. But, like, no, actually, there is. It is Eisen and paintings.
No, even Eisen and Rokuro, they get along really well.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, so, you know, again, that's another good bromance between two guys who just get along really well.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the subject really quickly. And Josh, is it all right if I do a special Retro Encounter announcement along with this subject change?
Yeah, sure.
Because we have a poll result to discuss.
Oh, you dropping that? I was going to actually bring that up earlier as a game that I figured you'd want to talk about. They do relationships really interestingly.
It is a game I want to talk about, but we're going to be talking about it in much greater detail in a few months. Because we've been holding a poll to determine what Dragon Quest game we play in a few months for Retro Encounter. And the far and away winner was Dragon Quest V. Which was
so cool.
Super Famicom game that had a DS port a couple years ago. Or, man, shoot, this is probably like 7 years ago by now.
Yeah.
And in that game, it's super interesting because around the 1/3 mark or so, you have to choose a woman to marry. And and also
lucky debutante.
They added a third girl for the DS version, and she's kind of terrible. But of course I went with her to see how she was different. And we'll talk about
DQ8 too, right?
What?
The first game to ever have pregnancy in it.
Dragon Quest V was, but DQ8 there is some romance. There is some romance there too. And in the 3DS version, instead of getting a canon ending, they give you a second option.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah. Oh, is that Silas making a guest appearance?
Yeah.
Speaking of babies, in Dragon Quest V, you do have children with your wife of choice, and the hair color of your children is determined by who you married.
Yes,
but it's
blonde child.
Yeah,
it's like Fire Emblem Awakening style.
A little bit, children. Yes, actually.
Nice.
But yeah, in Dragon Quest V, it's a very romantic game because you marry a woman and have children, and then end up saving the world together with your wife and kids as like the main team. And they handle the relationships a little clumsily because they really try to get you to marry the childhood friend. They gently nudge you into Bianca a lot in that game.
Huh.
Yeah.
Gently a lot.
Yeah, gently a lot. But it's a good
at least enough to have a baby.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it more in a few months. But Dragon Quest V won the poll. Retro Encounter will do it in I'm not sure exactly when, but a couple months from now. And that's a game with a lot of romance focus in it.
Good. Well, I'm happy I didn't ruin your special announcement by talking about it earlier.
No, that's cool. I'm glad that I got to mention it at least.
You're just happy to talk about Dragon Quest.
Think
Always.
so.
Always.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Yeah. Dragon Quest 3 through 8 are all really good games, and 5 and 8 are my two favorites.
9's the best.
8 is a fantastic game.
I have no comment.
It's fine.
8 has been alright so far.
Is it the first Dragon Quest game you haven't immediately hated, at least?
Yes,
right
I
on.
will have to
Sweet.
say that.
Good.
Okay, so that's a positive start. I'll take it.
And I'm smiling like when I saw the frog face enemy and how it's literally a frog in a face.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other cool points people want to get out?
Oh shoot, I'm about done. I talked about Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest, and Lufia 2, so I'm a happy camper.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
I think we had a pretty good conversation. We talked gameplay, we talked bromances, we talked, childhood friends.
Having sex with nurses.
Right.
I still don't think they hooks with the nurse, man. I think they just flirt a lot.
No. There's at least some hand stuff.
Are we going to be doing this once a year? Like, having the argument?
Whenever it is brought up.
To discuss. What base did they make it to?
I think he struck out.
No. There's no way.
Okay, so
to see this.
it's the Devil Social Link in Persona 4 between the main character and Sae, the nurse. Sae is her name, I think. And
something happened.
I think they just flirt a lot, and Josh is pretty sure they had sex.
I'm looking it up.
They did something.
But we don't need to. Man, this is a talk for another day. We should just do an entire podcast.
A whole episode about it?
A whole episode just about the nurse in Persona 4.
We'll talk over the video. We'll do a video series of it. Yeah, so we talked about a boatload of games. Lots of different relationships. Lots of pros and cons. We would love to hear what you guys have to say, so jump on the boards or send us an email at retro@rpgfan.com. As always, you guys can reach out to us on Twitter. And then, Mike, what do we have coming up? We have a boatload of stuff in the pipeline.
Should we talk about the game that's that is going to be shown in March, or should we?
Let's talk about all the games.
Okay. So, very soon we should have 2 episodes on Shadow Hearts Covenant, which hi Silas, which we've alluded to, and Alana's hosting both of those episodes. Then we have a couple bonus rounds here and there talking about games we wish were localized, our favorite, what the best Final Fantasy game is. And also in March, 2 episodes about Chrono Trigger, which I'm looking forward to a lot, because we have a couple people that have never played Chrono Trigger before. That
Chrono Trigger's so good.
Yeah, and
believe it.
And hopefully we'll have them on that episode, but the panel has not been finalized yet. But
so I have an honest question.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
How did RPG Fan hire somebody that hadn't played Chrono Trigger?
I will ask those questions to at least one person, possibly 2, on next.
You know what, though?
Episodes.
I would love to hear what fresh blood on somebody who hasn't, played it in 25. How old is it? 25 years?
1995, so 22 years.
20. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, between 21 and 22. But yeah, Chrono Trigger is next month. Those episodes are coming in March. And after that, let's see, Dragon Quest won't be for a little while, but we have lots of exciting stuff planned coming in Retro Encounter. Before we sign off, please be sure to rate us on iTunes and leave comments. We appreciate any exposure that the podcast can get. Go on to the RPGFan.com forums or the RPGFan.com Facebook page and tell us your thoughts. So I guess that just leaves regular social media. Alana, where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues, or you can message me on the boards at Diving Falcons.
Right on. And Steph, how about you?
I will be on the social media, basically, or you could reach me at my own Twitter at DiceSMS.
And you're Dice on the forums, correct?
Sure am.
Yep. And I'm Monsoon on the forums and at The Real Monsoon on Twitter.
JD Curry, literally everywhere.
So you think we're about done talking about love? Ready to, start going back to the real world and hating things again?
Love is over.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Love is over. Now there's only hate. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Yay!